My name is Tammy Fisher. I work in communication for the Georgia-Cumberland Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. And today we're going to talk about, not communication really, we're going to talk about leadership and the different ways that we can maximize that potential that we all have, because we're all leaders. I like to define things. So let's make sure that we all understand what leadership is. So leadership is actually both a research area, because people like to understand how people lead, but we're all so different, right? Nobody's the same. So the research on it is kind of skewed and kind of all over the place, because we all do lead so differently, because you guys are going to react differently, leaders are going to lead differently, and no two situations are going to be the same. But leadership, it's also practical skill. It's something that you do. But it's something that you do with an individual or an organization. You lead or you guide. Sometimes I like to think of it as kind of taking people by the hand and kind of, let's go this way. So what is potential? But someone or something that is considered a worthwhile possibility. God created each one of us. I think he creates each one of us with potential. So who am I? So why am I standing up here? What in the world? I'm actually in the process of getting a master's degree from Andrews University in leadership. I'm actually taking courses in it, and I love it. It's like so fun and so exciting and so interesting to me. I've been a communications director since I was 25 years old. And I remember my first job at what is now Washington Adventist University, which was CUC, Columbia Union College, back in the day when I worked there. And I remember taking that first job going, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I know how to do the communication part, but how do I do the leadership part? And I had an assistant and about 5 students in my office. And I still wonder, what am I doing? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And of course, you get a lot of strength from God, and he gives you the wisdom. But a lot of it is also just experience. How do you do things? I have actually studied or taken leadership courses since 2004. When I was at La Sierra University, I was public relations director there. I took several leadership courses there in their School of Education and Administration. And then when I came here to work at Georgia-Cumberland Conference, I've been a communication director since 2007. I've taken leadership courses through the conference. They've brought in a guy named Dr. Nick Howard, and he's, I think his PhD is in psychology. But he's been working with us on leadership and how to grow as leaders and how to establish that foundation. And I don't know how many of you in here, but I got a lot of experience doing children's leadership. I've got 2 children, so I spent a lot of time in Sabbath school. I don't think I graduated beyond kindergarten. I was in Crandall in kindergarten a really long time. I've been a church elder, adult Sabbath school leader, VBS director. So I've done a lot of different roles, and then of course I worked for the church for a really long time as well. But I also really believe in the Bible, and that you draw a lot of strength and a lot of wisdom, and there's a lot of leadership tidbits in the Bible. But a generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. And I think that's really true as a leader. If you're guiding and leading and refreshing others, because I don't think leadership is all about saying, go do this, go do that. You're not going to have success if you do that. At least I don't. And nobody really, I don't like to be told what to do, and I don't think others do. So I want to share this little video with you. You guys ever heard of TED Talks? So this is a really great TED Talk.
I want to start by asking everyone in the audience here a question. How many of you are completely comfortable with calling yourselves a leader? See, I've asked that question all the way across the country, and everywhere I ask it, no matter where, there's always a huge portion of the audience that won't put up their hand. And I've come to realize that we have made leadership into something bigger than us. We made it into something beyond us. We made it about changing the world. And we've taken this title of leader, and we treat it as if it's something that one day we're going to deserve. But to give it to ourselves right now means a level of arrogance or cockiness that we're not comfortable with. And I worry sometimes that we spend so much time celebrating amazing things that hardly anybody can do, that we've convinced ourselves that those are the only things we're celebrating. And we start to devalue the things that we can do every day. And we start to take moments where we truly are a leader, and we don't let ourselves take credit for it, and we don't let ourselves feel good about it. And I've been lucky enough over the last 10 years to work with some amazing people who have helped me redefine leadership in a way that I think has made me happier. And with my short time today, I just want to share with you the one story that is probably most responsible for that redefinition. I went to a school in a little school called Mount Allison University in Sackville, New Brunswick. And on my last day there, a girl came up to me and she said, "I remember the first time that I met you." And then she told me a story that happened 4 years earlier. She said, "On my day before I started university, I was in the hotel room with my mom and my dad, and I was so scared and so convinced that I couldn't do this, that I wasn't ready for university, that I just burst into tears. And my mom and my dad were amazing. They were like, 'Look, we know you're scared, but let's just go tomorrow. Let's go to the first day. And if at any point you feel as if you can't do this, that's fine. Just tell us, we will take you home. We love you no matter what.'" And she said, so I went the next day and I was standing in line getting ready for registration, and I looked around and I just knew I couldn't do it. I knew I wasn't ready. I knew I had to quit. And she says, I made that decision, and as soon as I made it, there was this incredible feeling of peace that came over me. And I turned to my mom and my dad to tell them that we needed to go home. And just at that moment, you came out of the Student Union building wearing the stupidest hat I have ever seen in my life. It was awesome. And you had a big sign promoting Shinorama, which is Students Fighting Cystic Fibrosis, a charity I've worked with for years. And you had a bucket full of lollipops. And you were walking along and you were handing the lollipops out to people in line and talking about Shinorama. And all of a sudden, you got to me and you just stopped and you stared. It was creepy. This girl right here knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then you looked at the guy next to me and you smiled and you reached in your bucket, you pulled out a lollipop and you held it out to him. And you said, "You need to give a lollipop to the beautiful woman standing next to you." And she said, "I have never seen anyone get more embarrassed faster in my life." He turned beet red, and he wouldn't even look at me. He just kind of held the lollipop out like this. And I felt so bad for this dude that I took the lollipop. And as soon as I did, you got this incredibly severe look on your face, and you looked at my mom and my dad, and you said, "Look at that. Look at that. First day away from home, and already she's taking candy from a stranger." And she said everybody lost it. 20 feet in every direction, everyone started to howl. And I know this is cheesy, and I don't know why I'm telling you this. But in that moment when everyone was laughing, I knew that I shouldn't quit. I knew that I was where I was supposed to be, and I knew that I was home. And I haven't spoken to you once in the 4 years since that day, but I heard that you were leaving. And I had to come up and tell you that you've been an incredibly important person in my life, and I'm gonna miss you. Good luck. And she walks away, and I'm flattened. And she gets about 6 feet away, she turns around and smiles and goes, "You should probably know this too. I'm still dating that guy 4 years later." A year and a half after I moved to Toronto, I got an invitation to their wedding. Here's the kicker, I don't remember that. I have no recollection of that moment, and I've searched my memory banks because that is funny, and I should remember doing it, and I don't remember it. And that was such an eye-opening, transformative moment for me to think that maybe the biggest impact I'd ever had on anyone's life, a moment that had a woman walk up to a stranger 4 years later and say, "You've been an incredibly important person in my life," was a moment that I didn't even remember. How many of you guys have a lollipop moment, a moment where someone said something or did something that you feel fundamentally made your life better? All right. How many of you have told that person they did it? See, why not? We celebrate birthdays where all you have to do is not die for 365 days. And yet we let people who have made our lives better walk around without knowing it. And every single one of you has been the catalyst for a lollipop moment. You have made someone's life better by something that you said or that you did. And if you think you haven't, think about all the hands that didn't go back up when I asked that question. You're just one of the people who hasn't been told. But it is so scary to think of ourselves as that powerful. It can be frightening to think that we can matter that much to other people. Because as long as we make leadership something bigger than us, as long as we keep leadership something beyond us, as long as we make it about changing the world, we give ourselves an excuse not to expect it every day from ourselves and from each other. Marianne Williamson said, "Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light and not our darkness that frightens us." And my call to action today is that we need to get over that. We need to get over our fear of how extraordinarily powerful we can be in each other's lives. We need to get over it so we can move beyond it. And our little brothers and our little sisters, and one day our kids, or our kids right now, can watch us start to value the impact we can have on each other's lives more than money and power and titles and influence. We need to redefine leadership as being about lollipop moments. How many of them we create, how many of them we acknowledge, how many of them we pay forward, and how many of them we say thank you for. Because we've made leadership about changing the world, and there is no world. There's only 6 billion understandings of it. And if you change one person's understanding of it, one person's understanding of what they're capable of, one person's understanding of how much people care about them, one person's understanding of how powerful an agent for change they can be in this world, you've changed the whole thing. And if we can understand leadership like that, I think if we can redefine leadership like that, I think we can change everything. And it's a simple idea, but I don't think it's a small one. And I want to thank you all so much for letting me share it with you today.
Do you ever think about the impact that you're having on others by just being you? So I found this graph on Dreams Time, and it talks about the difference between a boss and a leader. And I know you guys are probably really more in like volunteer positions, so you're not like per se a boss, but you kind of are because people are working for you. So you're a boss or a leader. Are you going to drive people or are you going to coach them? Are you going to depend on your authority or are you going to depend on goodwill? Are you going to inspire fear or are you going to generate enthusiasm? Are you going to say I or are you going to say we? Are you going to place blame or are we going to just fix things? Are you going to know how it's done or are you going to develop people? Because I don't think anybody knows everything. Are you going to use people or are you going to give credit? Are you going to take credit? Are you going to ask? Are you going to command and say go? Or come on, or say, come on, let's go, let's do this. So I'm going to show that again because I really love it, but I want you guys to think about that. As a leader, you're going to empower, you're going to inspire, you're probably going to change things, right? Because whatever you're doing is probably going to be different, it's going to be new, because we're all different, we're all unique, and we're all going to do things differently. And hopefully you're going to inspire people with a shared vision, which is something we want to talk a little bit more about. But I want you to understand Romans 12, 6-8. Everybody has gifts. Have you taken a spiritual inventory? What are those gifts? We have different gifts. And in Romans 12, 6-8, this is the verse, but it talks about you have gift of prophesying, of serving, of teaching, of encouraging, of giving, of leading, and showing mercy. And you might have a combination of those. You might have several of those. I don't know. Do you know what you have? That's an important thing to figure out. If you're a leader, what are your gifts? And how do you figure that out? There's actually online, and you could probably just Google it and find these as well. And I'm happy to share this. But there are places where you can go and specifically take a spiritual gifts inventory. And if you have a team of people, it's even better because then you understand, well, here's how I work, but you work like this. And maybe somebody else works like this. And when we put all of our gifts together, hey, we're a pretty cool team because we do this and this and this. And I also think when you better understand your gifts and the gifts of those that are working with you, there's not as much conflict because you're like, oh, well, you do it this way because that's your gift. It's not because you're defying me or whatever, or trying to not work together. This is just how you work. So that's a good inventory. There's 3 different ones right there. There's like a spiritual strengths book you could buy, and there's a test in the back of that. There's so many different ways you can understand your spiritual gifts. And to me, it's just kind of, I've taken these a couple times, and it's always the same. So they don't change. So if you've taken the test and you already know what your gifts are, that's great. But it's important, once you establish how you work and how others work, is that you want to have a vision for growth. You want to know, how is this going to happen? How are we going to achieve whatever the goal is? And I always, of course, believe in prayer, praying about what the goal is, and then setting it together. If you have a team, whoever you're working with, you guys should be setting that together because I think you're going to have more power in more minds. That's just really an important thing. So let's talk about the vision. Do you know what it is? You need to define it. It's important to understand what is your vision so that you can share it with others. What am I doing? And why am I doing it? And if you can't see that, you can't share it. So you've got to name it. What is your vision? Because you can't explain it if you don't understand it. And once you get it, you want to make other people feel it. If you don't have a passion for this, don't do it because you're obviously not working in your gifts. And I certainly don't want to say that. They'll probably come find me. But really, if you're not excited about it, don't do it. Because it's not where God wants you. Work in your passion. And once you have that passion, you're going to easily be able to share it. And if you have passion, people are going to feel it. And they're going to feel that excitement. They're going to understand what you're doing, and they're going to get excited with you. And it's certainly going to be a lot more enjoyable to journey with somebody who's excited and happy about what they want to do. Now, to understand things, it's kind of a two-way street. It's not just me saying, I want to do this and this and this. Well, some of it is. But you've also got to listen to others. You've got to really hear them. You've got to understand what they're saying. And maybe you're leading kids. Well, they have an opinion too. They definitely do. And they're going to tell you, well, this isn't what I want to do. And now, granted, you're the leader, and so you're still the parent or the leader or the person in charge. But I do think it's really important to listen and hear what others say, what they see, what their perspective is, and to learn from them. I don't know about you, but I have, my son is 19, and he's a freshman at Southern, and my daughter is 13, so I have boy, girl. She's 8th grade, going on like 25. But I really learned so much from them. Just listening to them, just stopping and listening and understanding, what do they think? Why are they that way? So once you get people to see and to feel, and you listen to them and you understand, and everybody's kind of on the same page, you want people to embrace the vision. So how do you get people to do that? So you want to make them happy, and you want them to understand. So I think part of that is just saying, if we do all of these things, and we're excited about it, and I've listened, and I kind of get your take on it, I get my take on it, here's what the future's going to look like if we do these things. So some ways that you can do that is you can tell inspiring stories. You can tell about different things that you've done. Explain it so that everybody can relate and embrace the idea. All right, we have a solid foundation. Everybody's on the same page. Everybody's excited. Your vision is established. Everybody's embracing it. Are you done? No, now is when you start. Now is time for the real work. Now is the time to motivate. So as a leader, do you just check out? Say, oh, you guys have all that covered. It's good to go. No. You've got to inspire the team. You've taken your spiritual gifts inventory, you've taken your test online, and you've got your team to take their test. You understand their skill set and their passions, and they understand yours. You watch the vision